Hi guys, welcome back to the Shannon Show. Hello if you're new. So today's video is going to be a review of Outer Banks Season 1, which just dropped on Netflix. Now, before going into this, I was excited, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm a sucker for teen drama. So I love me some young adult teen drama. And for the most part, for at least season 1, Netflix usually delivers. And when I saw the trailer, I thought, okay, this could be decent. It looks like an adventure thing, you know, decent looking cast. This is looking very generic, but I was still here for it. So I think the first thing I have to just address is that, why did they decide that this cast was 16? Why did they decide that this cast was 16? John B looks near enough 25. So even with no beard, so I'm not really sure why they're still trying to pass the grown men as teenagers, especially 18, okay, but 16, Netflix, I'm going to need you to do better. But anyway, questionable character ages aside, for those of you who haven't watched it, what you can expect is the typical tropes. We've got the protagonist who is poor, who's trying to do good, but is always ending up in bad situations. We've got the smart kid from a disadvantaged background. We've got the rich girl who's down to earth. We've got the unattainable girl who is now suddenly attainable. We've got boy rivalry, we've got girl rivalry, family drama, we've got police drama. So it's not a new groundbreaking drama. It's definitely things that we have seen before in these teen shows. It's definitely a thing of, does this season make it worthwhile to watch it all again, to watch a different version of it? What the main narrative is, I think the core storyline is centered around John B, who's the main character's dad, who has went out to sea, who's been lost out to sea, looking for this buried treasure of $400 million worth of gold, which no one has been able to find for hundreds of years. And John B takes it upon himself with his friends to find this treasure. And this search for gold takes us on this journey that's full of danger and problems, and there's a lot of drama and other people get involved, and we see that all unravel in the 10 episodes. In terms of the journey that we are taking on in this series, did I enjoy it? I think objectively the journey was decent. It was a decent journey that we were taking on. I somewhat enjoyed the drama, I think a lot of them were predictable, but I think overall the narrative in terms of the writing was pretty good. But it was the execution that was lacking. I think what let down the series, let down the script and let down the production, I think what that can be pinned down to is the acting. The acting was underwhelming. I wouldn't say it was bad all of the time, but it was average. And it almost felt to me as if the look of the character mattered more than the actual acting. You've got John B, he's the protagonist. They've picked a decent looking guy, high cheekbones, got the jawline, blonde, curly, sandy hair. Definitely could get a job at Hollister. So I already know they've put him in as bait for young teen girls. And I think even the character of Sarah to some degree falls into that Hollister look that fans love to ship, fans like to look up to. Obviously there's a romance between Sarah and John B. That's another relationship that the teens can get behind, they can stand. The Hollister looking couple, let's support them. A lot of the performances in this, especially by the younger actors, were quite questionable, especially with the scenes which I believe required a bit more emotional intensity. So when people were angry, when people were trying to be intimidating, when people were upset, when people were screaming, it didn't sound believable, it didn't sound convincing. It kind of felt like it was a rehearsal half of the time, because it was just very half-assed. Like, there were so many scenes with Sarah, I hate to point her out, but there were so many scenes with her where she was crying or emotional and whining, and it just was not convincing. I don't trust you. I don't believe you. And I kid you not, that's like the tone. Sometimes there was decent scenes, there was decent emotional scenes where they got to a level of some kind of intensity, but most of it was a bit flat. And yeah, I pointed out Sarah a lot, but all of them were guilty, not just Sarah. John B, he was angry a lot, and his angriness was just not convincing. It kind of felt like they wanted him to be angry but look good at the same time. Yeah, there just needed to be a lot more development, and I'm not sure whether it could that is just the actors, because I think definitely the director is to blame as well, because I kind of just feel like, how did you not ask for another take after seeing that? Because especially with young actors definitely they usually need like double the amount of work. Like, I just kind of felt like the directors just didn't care. They just kind of felt like, you guys look good, it's all good, your looks are going to carry the film. That was the vibe that I was getting from the acting. If I had to say what characters I enjoyed the most, or what actors I think actually acted the best, I'd say probably JJ's character was actually decently acted. The person who plays Ruth was actually a decent actor, and the person who plays Sarah's dad was actually a decent actor. So he played a pretty decent villain. So I'll give them their props. And I guess another decent actor in there was Adina Porter. I've seen her in a few things before. I've seen her in The 100. I've seen her in American Horror Story. She's a great actress. She did decent in this role, but that's how I kind of know that the director was probably at fault here, because I've seen Adina Porter do a better job. So that again leads me to believe that there was a bit of laziness going on from the director. Another thing that I noticed was the lack of active female characters. We only had 2, and like the rest were all boys. We focus a lot on Sarah's father, but we don't focus on her mother. And by the end of it, I was like, this is really strange, because even the reoccurring male characters, they still had their friendship groups around them. When it came to Sarah particularly, because we are still assuming she's still social, she still has other friends, we don't see any of them. Is how Kiara seems to be the only young black female in the whole of Outer Banks. Not even extra I saw. It's just very strange to me. But yeah, there were some bits of the narrative that definitely could have done better, and I feel like with a lot of these teeny shows, they always try to do this class divide, and I feel like half the time they don't do it well, because they never really hire working class people to be the working class people in these films, and I feel like most of the time it's a bit sketchy. And one thing that really annoyed me was the aspect of Kiara's character, because obviously Kiara, she's a self-proclaimed, I guess they call themselves different names like Podgers and stuff, and Podgers is like a class-based like for the working class, and she calls herself a pod despite being of the middle/upper class, and her friends don't really say anything about it. And in real life that wouldn't run, because one of the most annoying things to working class people is middle class people who try and claim or act like they're working class when they are not. So I'm not really sure how that was a whole plot device, and that was one aspect that annoyed me. Another weaker part of the narrative is probably the romance aspect. I was not invested in any of the couples, and I think maybe it's the acting there. I just couldn't emotionally connect with any of the relationship drama, and I live for relationship drama in teen series, but I just really didn't care about any of the romances or relationship drama in this series. Cinematography was great, definitely one of the highlights of the series. In terms of the action, I think the action was actually pretty decent. There is still a bit of odd bits here and there, especially with some of the fights. Who is this for? I think it's definitely for a younger audience. It's definitely a teen audience. In terms of my experience actually watching it, I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't a bad binge. Like, I didn't watch it and was like, this is horrible, I'm gonna turn it off. I didn't find it bad. I think it was just an average watch, but binging it actually didn't feel that bad in terms of the constructions of the episodes, even though I think the execution definitely could have been a bit better. I feel like the episodes ran relatively smoothly. I think there's enough highlights in there to keep you watching it. There's enough things in the episode to save it that would justify you watching another episode and continuing to watch it, especially if you're somebody who feels like once you watch something you have to complete it. Background noise, it's a good candidate for background noise, and if there was a season 2, if somehow it does get renewed for season 2, I would watch it. But personally, I prioritise something else, but there really isn't much out on Netflix today, so I'd say why not watch it, see if you like it. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. So I'd be really interested to hear what you thought of the season. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Did you think it was okay? Do you think it is strong enough to gain a following to the point where Netflix would renew it for a season 2. Does anyone want it to be renewed for season 2? They left that window open. It does sound like season 2 could be interesting. In terms of my predictions for season 2, keeping it as spoiler free as I can, I feel like there is probably going to be elements of like running away, trying to run away from the law, elements of revenge, elements of getting back what somebody feels is rightfully theirs. But yeah, in a non-spoiler way, what do you think, for those of you who are invested in this series, will happen for season 2? So yeah, taking everything into account, I'm going to give it half marks, a 2.5 out of 5. I think if it is going to be renewed, there definitely needs to be improvements to the acting. There definitely needs to be a new director. But yeah, for those of you who haven't watched it, let me know if this is something that you were planning on watching or were skeptical about watching. And for those of you who have watched it, let me know what you thought of it. Did you like it? Did you not? Did you think it was alright? And of course, let me know what you thought of my review and what you would rate it out of 5. Subscribe if you haven't yet, and if you have, don't forget to press that notification bell so you know when the next review is dropping. Till next time, guys, bye!